Hello to the viewers. It's such a wonderful opportunity for me to be here on this platform. My name is Lwazi Dekeda. I'm a writer, I'm an author. I've authored my first book, which came out last year, and I think that's what this interview is about. I'm a father. I'm married to one wife. Been married for 14 years now, and I've got an 11-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. The book is doing well. I mean, much better than I ever expected. I mean, it's just over a year now. I've sold about 900 copies. I've got some copies that are waiting to be bought. In fact, not the process, is continuing with the Department of Arts, Sports and Recreation. They are buying some of those books to put into their libraries. I've got books that have made their way to Swaziland, to the UK, to the US, and to Canada as well. So the book, is getting out there. People are getting interested in the book and the message that it holds. I mean, many people say, look, I just saw that cover and it spoke to me and it challenged me. I think I distinguish my book in this way. I think the difference in the book from other books that I've read, and I've read many books on purpose, I've read many books on destiny, but the distinguishing feature or mark of the book flows from the title itself, which says, "You owe us your greatest life." Because I found in me reading all of these books that speak to destiny and purpose, the focus is really on the individual, about them, living their best life or their greatest life. But the question that I ask is, to what end? And I believe the fact that we are created by God, there is a purpose that we need to live out in this world. So I say you owe us your greatest life, and I distinguish the book on two levels. Number one, the fact that the book really, I think, puts pressure on the individual, or draws out from the individual the fact that you are born for a reason and for a purpose. There is something that you're born to do on this world. And it's not about you living life to, for lack of a better phrase, to eat, drink, and be merry, but that there is a mandate that is upon your life. So you have to live out that mandate. And I think at a second level is the fact that, we have benefited from other people who have brought their peace, other people who have lived their greatest life, who have dared to push boundaries, who have dared to do what seemed seemingly impossible. I often make an example of the fact that today, look, I'm in East London, I can go to Johannesburg on an aeroplane in an hour, 20 minutes, over 900 to 1,000 kilometers. And we can date this back to the people like the Wright brothers, people who developed flying in aircrafts, who in a day and a time where it was considered impossible for mankind to take to the skies. But they said, look, we have this burning desire, we have this passion, and we believe that it is possible. So they brought their peace in that regard. So what I'm saying here is that, look, because you're unique, because you're different, and without you living your greatest life or the higher version of who you are, the world becomes poorer as a result of that. So there is an obligation. You're not just here, to live at a level of the mediocre, but there is an obligation on your life, to really push the boundaries and bring the very best of who you are to this world. Yeah, I think every chapter to a writer is their favorite chapter, but I think this is one of the chapters that really speak to me a lot, because I dealt with this issue of fear, and I had to face fear head on a lot, especially in the area of public speaking. And I'm going to get to your question. I just want to start here first, because it's interesting to me that what I found to be my purpose is public speaking and conveying and communicating to people. But yet there was this thing that was in my life, that was planted in my life, which was the fear of public speaking. And I found that fear comes to minimize our potential. Fear comes to keep us in a level of mediocrity. So you asked a very interesting question, because I think a lot of us, if not all of us, in some way or another, in varying degrees at different levels, we are challenged by this aspect of fear. And I would say, yes, of course, I write from a Christological worldview, because that is how I see the world. But there are certain principles which I deal with both in the chapter on overcoming fear and also in the chapter on pursuing purpose, I deal with certain principles that I think could be of help. They're not principles that necessarily flow from the Bible, but they are principles that I think that could help people to deal with fear or to manage it. Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, we are battered from every side, and our attention is being grappled for, by media, and I find it to be a daily challenge in my own life. But I think what the book does is to bring to the attention of the reader how important and how valuable your life is, number one. But it also brings to the attention of the reader how valuable or how impossible it is to live out your greatest life without being connected to the source. So I think with that recognition in mind, and this is how it's worked in my life, it has driven me to put certain measures in place to ensure that I maintain a daily discipline of connecting with the Maker or with my Maker. For instance, when I wake up in the morning, I try, and sometimes I don't, it doesn't happen, sometimes I fail, not to look at my phone. Because I think that's just a thing that we've been accustomed, to, or being maybe wired, to doing as a default position. So I make sure that I wake up in the morning and I read my Bible, I pray, put disciplines in place. For instance, we don't have TV at home. We decided 3 years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, that we, especially raising children, that we will not have TV. We switched off the DSTV. And I think this is what has helped us a lot. We see in our children the impact of that, how they've just become so creative and how well they're doing at school as well when you compare them to their peers and the level at which they think. The first one is that I think it's under the subheading, how do you nurture, how do you maintain, or how do you get yourself in the lane to be prepared and take and seize opportunities? I think that's where I brought them in. And I talked about nurturing a spirit of expectation, because expectation acts like a magnet. When you're expectant, of something, you attract that thing. And there is a part in our brain that is called the reticular activating system. Because what happens with human beings is that we receive 400 billion bits of information per second. But scientists tell us that we can only process 2,000 bits of information per second. Now we receive these through our 5 senses, the 400 billion pieces of information. But how the brain processes that is that it will sift through that bits of information on what it believes to be of importance to you. Let me make a simple example. Have you ever had the experience where you buy a certain vehicle, let's say a red Mercedes-Benz, and all of a sudden you begin to see a lot of red Mercedes-Benzes, on the road. Now, it's not that these people went out to buy these vehicles after you've bought your vehicle, but your brain is bringing to your attention the red Mercedes-Benz because that's what it thinks is important to you, because you have made that decision to buy this vehicle. So the brain sifts in that regard. So when we think positively, which is the other principle, and we begin to envision that thing that we want to see in our lives, we begin to expect that, your brain will then bring you evidence around you of that thing. So that's how it works. So it's having a positive outlook on life, really fighting your thought life and making sure that you manage your thought life. Managing your thought life, it's nurturing a spirit of expectation and remaining positive. That is those 3 principles that I speak about in the book that will help us to position us to number 1, see opportunities, and number 2, to take advantage of those opportunities when we see them. The book is available in 3 versions, actually. You get the hard copy, you also get the ebook, which you can get on Amazon, and you can get the audiobook as well, which is also on Amazon. Well, I've got a number of platforms. I am on, as you mentioned, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, but I do also have a website, which is lwazidekeda.co.za. So you can find, it's a one-stop shop. I mean, even my social media links, you can move from there. I also have pages where I host links to my podcasts that are available on like your Apple Music, that are available on Google, your Google platforms and other podcast platforms as well, music platforms as well. I'm also available, as I said, on Amazon. But I try also on my social media pages regularly to put out videos out there that speak to elements of issues that I deal with in the book, so people can follow there as well. If they want to check out, maybe they're not too sure whether they want the book or they don't want the book, they can go on my YouTube page there. There are videos there. There's that interview that I mentioned earlier on that I had on Morning Live and on other platforms as well. So that's how people can connect with me. If they want to get, direct contact with me, they can use my phone number as well, which is 083 440 6863.